There is a moment in the Sabhā Parva, the book of the assembly hall, second of the 18 Parvas of the Mahābhārata, when a young prince walks through a palace that is not his and mistakes a crystal floor for still water. He draws up the hem of his garment. He takes a careful step. The floor is solid. A few paces on, he does the opposite. He strides confidently across what appears to be smooth stone and falls into a pool. The women of the court see it. The servants see it. Bhima and Arjuna and the twins all see it. And the text tells us plainly, in Ganguly's rendering, beholding the plight of Duryodhana, the mighty Bhima and Arjuna and both the twins all laughed aloud. King Yudhishthira, to his credit, tried to silence them. Krishna, the text notes, showed his approval of the laughter, and Duryodhana, being unused to putting up with insults, could not bear that laugh of theirs. He turned his face down, left without uttering a word, and went back to Hastinapura. That walk home, silent, burning, soaked, is where the Mahābhārata's anatomy of envy truly begins. The Sanskrit psychological vocabulary for what Duryodhana carries out of Indraprastha is precise. The root is irsha, a word that names envy as distinct from jealousy, specifically the pain caused by another person's good fortune rather than fear of losing one's own. But the text quickly moves us past simple naming. By the close of Sabhā Parva, Adhyaya 46, the narrator offers a clinical verdict. The heart of King Duryodhana, afflicted at sight of the prosperity of the Pandavas, became inclined to sin, as he proceeded towards his city, reflecting on all he had seen and suffered. The Sanskrit commentarial tradition reads this as papa pravritti, an orientation towards sin, and the text treats it not as a sudden moral collapse, but as the terminal stage of a long interior weather system. To understand that weather system, the Mahābhārata insists we go back one generation. Dhritarashtra, eldest son of the Kuru line, was denied the throne of Hastinapura because of his blindness. The throne passed to his younger brother Pandu. This was not Dhritarashtra's fault. He had done nothing wrong. And yet the text traces quietly how unexpressed, how he harbored suppressed resentment across a lifetime. His judgment, says the scholarship on his character, and James Lochtenfeld's analysis is particularly precise on this, was blinded not by physical darkness, but by vatsalya, fatherly love weaponized into complicity. Duryodhana did not invent his wound. He was born into it, born to a father for whom the throne had always been the site of original injustice. The multi-generational quality of this resentment is part of what makes the Mahābhārata's psychology so demanding. The text refuses to let us locate the origin in a single person, a single moment, a single choice. Duryodhana's birth name was Suyodhana, one who fights well, the noble warrior. The Adi Parva tells us that his birth was accompanied by evil omens. He cried with the voice of a donkey. Jackals howled, vultures shrieked, storms swept across the land. Dhritarashtra consulted Bhishma and Vidura, who advised him to abandon the child for the welfare of the dynasty. He could not do it. There is something unbearable in that detail. A father, already carrying the wound of a stolen throne, cannot give up the son who might reclaim it. The boy grew up with that weight invisibly threaded through everything. The rivalry with Bhima preceded any philosophical corruption. Even before Shakuni's influence took hold, the text records in the Adi Parva that the adolescent Duryodhana poisoned Bhima's food, and when Bhima lost consciousness, wrapped his body in a sack, tied rocks to it, and dropped him in a river. This was a teenager acting without instruction. The text also records the house of Lak, the Lakshagriha, that Duryodhana arranged to burn the Pandavas alive while they slept. These are not the actions of a man driven to desperation by Indraprastha. They are the actions of someone in whom resentment had already long ago located its address. But the Rājasūya yagna, the imperial sacrifice performed by Yudhishthira in the Sabhā Parva, was something Duryodhana could not have anticipated in its totality. The Maya palace, built by the architect Maya of divine skill, was an architectural argument for Pandava supremacy made in stone and crystal and running water. Every king on earth had come to pay homage. The wealth laid before Yudhishthira was, as the text puts it, like unto the sacrifice of Indra himself among the celestials. Duryodhana walked through all of it. He saw it. He touched it. He fell into it. What he said afterward to Shakuni on the road home is one of the most psychologically exact speeches in the entire epic. Ganguly renders it, "O uncle, beholding this whole earth owning the sway of Yudhishthira in consequence of the might of the illustrious Arjuna's weapons, I, being filled with jealousy and burning day and night, am being dried up like a shallow tank in the summer season." The simile deserves attention. Not a river drying up, not a well, but a shallow tank. A body of water with no depth, no underground source, that relies entirely on rain that is no longer falling. Duryodhana is diagnosing his own interior hollowness, even if he cannot name it as such. What he says to his father Dhritarashtra in Adhyaya 48 goes further. "I eat and dress myself like a wretch," he says, "and pass my time a prey to fierce jealousy. Having beheld Yudhishthira's prosperity, whatever I enjoy brings me no gratification. The prosperity of Kunti's son that is possessed of such splendor maketh me pale." And then the line that cuts deepest. "Knowing the affluence of the foe and my own destitution, even though that affluence is not before me, I yet see it before me." This is the specific mechanism of comparative suffering the text is identifying. The object of envy does not need to be present to cause pain. Indraprastha is 3 days' ride away, but it is in Duryodhana's eyes every hour, in the dark, at meals, at rest. This is what the tradition means when it says envy is self-consuming. It does not require the rival's presence. It reconstructs that presence constantly from the inside. There is a particular kind of grief that mirrors this. A person who has watched a sibling or a close friend arrive somewhere they always believed was their own destination. The marriage that happened, the child that came, the recognition that accumulated, the ease that settled. No one lied, no one cheated, and yet in the watcher something calcifies. Not one sharp moment, but a slow drying, like a shallow tank in summer. You sit at the same table, you say the right words, and the whole time the other life is superimposed over your eyes, making your own food tasteless. The text will not let us stay simply with Duryodhana's suffering, because the next move in Adhyaya 48 is the hinge on which everything turns. Dhritarashtra, moved by his son's anguish, begins to counsel restraint. He suggests consulting Vidura. Duryodhana's response is the oldest form of emotional coercion in family life. "If thou consultest with Kshata, that is Vidura, he will make thee desist. And as thou desist, O king, I will certainly kill myself. And when I am dead, thou wilt become happy with Vidura." The text does not editorialize, it simply records the sequence. A son makes his suicide the condition of a father's compliance. Dhritarashtra, who could not abandon the child at birth when every omen screamed to do so, cannot abandon him now. The dice game follows directly. Shakuni, Saubala son of Subala, king of Gandhara, is the precise clinical intelligence who turns Duryodhana's emotional collapse into architecture. Hearing Duryodhana's confession, he replies as Ganguly renders it, "I am an adept at dice, superior to all in the world. The son of Kunti is fond of dice playing, though he possesseth little skill in it. Summoned to play or battle, he is sure to come forward. I promise to win all that wealth of his." Shakuni does not console. He does not redirect. He identifies Yudhishthira's one exploitable weakness with the precision of someone who has been watching for exactly this kind of moment, and makes Duryodhana's pain into a plan. This is what the tradition calls moha, delusion, working through an intermediary, a man so distorted by suffering that he hands his agency to someone skilled at using distortion. There is a verse attributed to Duryodhana, cited widely in oral commentary and secondary Vedantic literature as spoken during Krishna's peace mission in the Udyoga Parva, though its precise location in the critical edition has not been independently confirmed and should be received with that caution. Janami dharmam nachame pravrite, janami adharmam nachame nivritte. I know Dharma, yet I have no inclination toward it. I know adharma, yet I have no aversion to it. By some divine force seated in my heart, I act as I am directed. Whatever the verse's precise textual address, the sentiment it captures is exactly what the Sabhā Parva has already demonstrated across 30 chapters. Duryodhana is not ignorant of right action. He knows. He simply cannot move toward what he knows. The gap between intellectual knowing and behavioral transformation is what the text calls the true tragedy, not the battle, not the deaths, but this. The Bhagavad Gita, in its 16th chapter, the Daibasura Sampadvibhaga Yoga, catalogues the asuric tendencies, arrogance, pride, wrath, as the qualities that bind a person to destruction. Duryodhana is the Gita's reference case made flesh in the epic's narrative body. But David Gitomer's reading deserves a word here. Duryodhana is not simply a villain. He is an anti-hero embodying an older kshatriya this-worldliness, a warrior's code rooted in honor, pride, and the refusal to be diminished. His defense of Karna against caste discrimination was a genuine act of conviction. His courage on the battlefield was real. He was, by several accounts, a just administrator of his own kingdom. The Mahābhārata's darkness is that these qualities could not save him because the envy had gotten there first, had routed itself through every good quality and bent them toward a single purpose. What to carry forward into your actual day? The Sabhā Parva shows us that envy is not primarily about wanting what another person has. It is about the inability to experience your own life as sufficient when their life is visible. The practice the text implicitly demands is not the suppression of that pain, but the refusal to hand the pain to someone, a shakuni, who will give it a plan. Suffering that finds a strategist becomes catastrophe. Suffering that is simply witnessed, held, and not weaponized remains what it is, a human grief, finite, survivable. The shallow tank can be refilled, but only if you stop draining it to flood someone else's field.